What's up, everyone? Today we are going to be reading from 2 Samuel chapter 17. The lesson that we're going to learn is God's sovereign care and guidance over his people. We're going to learn that through the lesson and the advice of Hushai that enabled David to escape into the wilderness. We're going to continue with this study. We're going to continue on with this chapter. Let's get right into this video. When God gives you that peace, you will rest in his security, his protection, his comfort, his love. We'll be reading from 2 Samuel chapter 17, and it reads, Now Ahithophel urged Absalom, let me choose 12,000 men to start out after David tonight. I will catch up with them while he is weary and discouraged. He and his troops will panic, and everyone will run away. Then I will kill only the king, and I will bring all the people back to you as a bride returns to her husband. After all, it is only one man's life that you seek. Then you will be at peace with all the people. This plan seemed good to Absalom and to all the elders of Israel. Verse 5. But then Absalom said, Bring Hushai the Archite. Let's see what he thinks about this. When Hushai arrived, Absalom told him what Ahithophel had said. Then he asked, What is your opinion? Should we follow Ahithophel's advice? If not, what do you suggest? Well, Hushai replied to Absalom, This time Ahithophel has made a mistake. You know your father and his men. They are mighty warriors. Right now they are enraged as a mother bear who has been robbed of her cubs. And remember that your father is an experienced man of war. He won't be spending the night among the troops. He has probably already hidden in some pit or cave. And when he comes out and attack, a few of your men fall, there will be panic among the troops. And the word will spread that Absalom's men are being slaughtered. Then even the bravest soldiers, though they have the heart of a lion, will be paralyzed with fear. For all of Israel knows what a mighty warrior your father is and how courageous his men are. Verse 11. I recommend that you mobilize the entire army of Israel, bringing them from as far away as Dan in the north and Beersheba in the south. That way you will have an army as numerous as the sand on the seashore. And I'll advise that you personally lead the troops. When we find David, we'll fall on him like a dew that falls on the ground. Then neither he nor any of his men will be left alive. And if David were to escape into some town, you will have all of Israel there at your command. Then you can take ropes and drag the walls of the town in the nearest valley until every stone is torn down. With Absalom and all the men of Israel said, Hushai's advice is better than Ahithophel's, for the Lord has determined to defeat the counsel of Ahithophel, when really was the better plan, so they could bring disaster on Absalom. Hushai warned David to escape, and this is in verse 15. Hushai told Zadok and Abiathar, the priests, with Ahithophel had said to Absalom and the elders of Israel, and what he himself has advised instead. Quick, he told them, find David and urge him not to stay at the shallow of the Jordan River tonight, but he must go across at once into the wilderness beyond. Otherwise, he will die and his entire army with him. Jonathan and Ahimaaz had been staying in Enrogel, so as not to be seen entering and leaving the city. Arrangements have been made for the servant girl to bring them the message they were to take to King David. But a boy spotted them at Enrogel, and he told Absalom about it. So they quickly escaped to Belarum, where a man hid them down inside a well in his courtyard. The man's wife put a cloth over the top of the well and scattered grain on it to dry in the sun, so no one suspected they were there. When Absalom's men arrived, they asked her, have you seen Ahimaaz and Jonathan? The woman replied, they were here, but they crossed over the brook. Absalom's men looked for them without success and returned to Jerusalem. Verse 21. Then the two men crawled out of the well and hurried on to King David. Quick, they told him, cross the Jordan tonight. And they told him how Ahithophel had advised that he be captured and killed. So David and all of the people with him went across the Jordan River during the night, and they were all on the other bank before dawn. When Ahithophel realized that his advice had been followed, he saddled his donkey. he went to his hometown, set his affairs in order, and hanged himself. He died there and was buried in the family tomb. David soon arrived in Mahanaim. By now, Absalom had mobilized the entire army of Israel and was leading his troops across the Jordan River. Absalom had appointed Amasa as commander of his army, replacing Joab, who had been commander under David. Amasa was Joab's cousin. His father was Jether, the Ishmaelite. His mother, Abigail, daughter of Nahash, was the sister of Joab's mother, Zeruiah. Absalom and the Israelite army set up camp in the land of Gilead. Verse 27. When David arrived at Mahanaim, he was warmly greeted by Shobi, son of Nahash, who came from Rabbah of the Ammonites, by Machir, son of Emilio, from Lodabar, and by Barzillai of Gilead from the Rogelim. They brought sleeping mats, cooking pots, serving bowls, wheat and barley, flour, roasted grains, beans, lentils, honey, butter, sheep, goat, and cheese for David and those who were with him. For they said, "You must all be very hungry and tired and thirsty after your long march through the wilderness." Let's break this down. From verses 1 to 4, what we'll see is the advice of Ahithophel to immediately pursue David. This paints a picture of plotting to kill David. The strategy suggested, what we see, to mobilize a quick strike force of 12,000, to spring a surprise attack and create a panic to kill David only. His death would cause his followers to turn to Absalom. Peace will be restored, right? But also we see is the result of the brilliant plan seemed good to Absalom and his advisors. Now what we'll see from 5 to 14 is the counter advice of Hushai to take time to mobilize a large army, a picture of God's sovereignty frustrating the plan of the wicked. What? Hushai was summoned by Absalom, ordered him to critique Ahithophel's advice and to give his own opinion. Right? Hushai refuted Ahithophel's proposal. David and his men were being misjudged and underestimated. They were courageous, fierce fighters, not weary and weak. David was an experienced soldier, unlikely to be caught off guard in any surprise attack. David would be hidden in a cave, not spending the night with his troops. David would have a brilliant strategy, probably setting up a trap to strike first, to gain a psychological advantage, and to cause false reports to spread, to strike fear in the troops of Absalom, to cause a riot. Hushai recommended a counter-proposal, secretly hoping to mislead Absalom, to mobilize a massive force with Absalom himself as commander. He relentlessly pursued David's army, and to kill them all, to eliminate all the opponents, to destroy any city David might flee into. Hushai's advice was accepted because the Lord had determined to frustrate and foil the advice of Ahithophel, because the Lord's judgment was falling upon Absalom. From 15 to 26, we'll see the warning of Hushai sent to David to escape immediately. This lesson in this chapter is a lesson on heeding the warnings of God. How so? The spy network was set in place. The priests were quickly contacted by Hushai, where to take the spy report to David, urging him to escape at once, warning him that Absalom could change his mind and attack at any time. That's in verse 2. The couriers, Jonathan and Hamaz, had been hiding at El Rogel, a spring and well outside Jerusalem. We'll see that in 27 and 29. So we also see the spy network sadly was discovered. The carrier was spotted by a young man who proceeded to tell Absalom. We also see the carrier fled to a supporter of David's, hid in his well. The supporter's wife covered the well and scattered grain on the top. The soldier of Absalom eventually came and questioned the woman. They asked if she had seen the two priests. She admitted having seen them, but then misled the soldiers. Number 3, the two carriers escaped, took the spy report and warning to David. Then what happened? We see the incredible results of Hushai's advice and God's guidance. How so? David and his followers escaped. Ahithophel committed suicide because his advice had been rejected, because his position of influence and honor was diminished. He lost power. That's a man that has no spirit, that does not have the Holy Spirit within him, because David would execute him as a traitor And he knew that he had no honor, no more influence. It was all diminished. His advice was rejected by the king, so he committed suicide. And he knew that he was going to be, either way, he was going to be killed as a traitor. David reached fortified city of Mahanaim just as Absalom crossed the Jordan River. Absalom had appointed Amasa as commander. Absalom and his Israelite forces camped in the land of Gilead, east of the Jordan River. In 27 to 29, we see the supplies brought David by 3 wealthy supporters. This is a lesson on helping and serving others, and we should look at this. The 3 benefactors, Shalbi, Makir, and Barzillai. The supplies given, the reason clearly stated, to meet the desperate need of David and his followers for the basic necessities of life. When you see someone in rough times, just giving them the basic necessities of life can make a world of a difference. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.